So this story is still evolving, but I figured I would at least share what's going on now after holding back for a couple of years now. You ever wonder what your soul's purpose is? A lot of people do, and now I kind of know what mine is. So this story really begins in my childhood. We moved to Connecticut. Next door was my aunt and uncle. We were in my grandfather's house. And he built my aunt and uncle a house next door. So my father was the brother of my aunt next door. So that's the relation. So my two cousins grew up in that house. My brother and I grew up in my grandfather's house. So anyway, growing up, the family dynamic next door was a little strained. I'm trying to be as sensitive as I can to this. Um, my uncle was very docile, honest, quiet, subdued person, never said anything, no outbursts emotionally, not yelling, screaming that I saw. My aunt, on the other hand, was a little bit testy and controlling and negative. So my father would refer to their household as the house of love, with a very highly sarcastic undertone. So my brother and I would be in the side yard between the two houses where our swing was and the big tree. And we would sit out there. My father would go over for coffee every night to talk to them. And we would just listen from the yard. It's like, and my aunt was, uh, like I said, a little bit grouchy and over controlling. So we'd hear Mr. Chester, and then snipe some command at him, to my uncle. And she was like, I can't stand working. And my father would just scream out, well, then quit your job then. Then 6 months later, after she quit, I can't stand being at home. Well, then go back to work. So that was our entertainment growing up before we had cable or the internet or anything else. We would just listen to the family exchanges next door. Anyway, so the house was tense. My two cousins there, they grew up in that environment and they were a little bit um, ticked off by it, I guess. Want to put it mildly. No respect for my uncle and no respect for my aunts. They just wanted to get the heck out of that house. And of course, ironically, younger cousin ended up getting our house when my mother moved to Florida, and older cousin ended up getting that house once both the parents died. So anyway, it was a very volatile family dynamic over there. So anyway, fast forward a few years after college, I had heard from my cousin, the older cousin who was in their house now. Their two bedrooms, the attic is finished off into two bedrooms. So the my cousins grew up there, and then my cousins' children grew up in those bedrooms. And I started to hear about activity going on. So they thought something satanic was going on, demons, something going out there, things would be thrown. I don't know all the stories, but it was bad enough that apparently my cousin called in the Warrens and Lorraine Warren in the 1980s to come investigate the attic. And I don't know the full discourse, but basically it ended with Lorraine saying, "Oh, honey, you got a demon up here," and then runs out of the house. So I don't know. Apparently, they apparently gave a series of recommendations: do this, do this, do this. And of course, they're Catholic. We are not. So I'm sure they wanted priests and monks and all sorts of people to come in and bless the house. And I don't believe my cousin ever did that. So it continues. So I never gave this any thought after that until our ghost tour at church in Connecticut, my home church that I've talked about in other videos, 2 years ago, where I think I mentioned two people that came through were mediums. One medium came back in a month later, and I ran her around the buildings, and she told me what she was experiencing in each part of the building. So explained why the screw was thrown at me, explained why the lights were flashing when they were turned off, and so forth. Um, I think we're up to a total of 8 spirits in that church now. Anyway, she started to describe a situation. She said, "Did you grow up in a house with the bedrooms in the attic?" I said, "No, but next door, my aunt's house has 2 bedrooms in the attic. Said, there's something dark up there. There's something evil up there." And we went back and forth on text about, that was November. The tour was in November. She came back in January or December, and we were texting back and forth in January. And she finally told me one night that every time she tries to reach out to me, she comes under psychic attack from this thing, this evil that's in that attic. I'm like, okay, it's still there. So she will not talk to me until this is resolved. So this has been going on now for over a year, and we're still trying to figure out what it is. And I think I finally have an answer. The question is, what do we do about it? So anyway, um, so I started consulting my mediums around here in Chicagoland, and I got a few bits and pieces. One of them told me we meditated. She said, "You have a generational curse on the family." And we meditated. She says, "My guides are telling me we can remove this." So I'm thinking it's my father's side. No, it turned out to be my mother's side, and connected to the whole story with my great great grandfather at the farmhouse in New Hampshire. So we're meditating, picture the light, you see a door, yes, open the door, and that black shadow thing from the church in Connecticut with the 2 white dots for an eyes, thin white line for a mouth, appears behind the door. And she goes, "Push through," and we push through, and this thing dissolved into a million black specks and then blew away. She said, "Okay, that's gone." But that was not what I was asking about. So we continued through, and I explained the situation to her, and she said, "Well, I can definitely feel something pressuring me, but I'm not having it. I'm not putting up with it. I'm keeping it at bay. But there's something there, and I believe you have the energy. Your abilities are very advanced. You need to find higher level mediums, higher level people to help you fully develop this. But you are fully a medium. You have very strong energy, very strong abilities. You need to find better help." And basically, she left it at that. But she said, "I feel you can resolve this issue. You are here to resolve this issue. It's part of your soul's purpose is to resolve that issue." I'm like, great. So that was a year ago. So I sought out 3 higher level mediums, one being a shaman in a town some distance away from here. But the reviews, the I hate to say I look at reviews for mediums, but I do. And um, he seemed to be very spot on. Then I found another medium back in New England who was a rescue medium. And so made an appointment with her, made an appointment with this shaman out here. And then I found someone at Lilydale who was like, seemed to be higher abilities. So I talked to all 3 of them several months ago to figure out what's going on here. And the first one I called was the rescue medium in New England, and said, "Well, what's the house? What's the location?" So gave her the Google address. We looked it up on Google Street View together on the call, and she said, "Oh yeah, there's something in that house. Oh yeah." So she was going to start working on it. She said it's generational trauma. Generational trauma is like layer upon layer upon layer of just deep emotional scarring trauma. And she said, "I picture a 10-year-old, 12-year-old boy up in the attic, curled up in a ball, just crying inconsolably. And it doesn't matter what you say or do, it just layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon trauma, childhood trauma, adult trauma, that this little boy's up there crying, and that needs to be resolved. And um, part of the reason your soul is here is to clear up that generational trauma because it's been going on too long. I'm like, great. So, anyway, then I go to the shaman out west of here, and he's reading some things about me and some advice, and then he says, "Who do you want to talk to today?" And I figure, okay, mom and dad are probably tired of talking to me. Let's go with my uncle. And mind you, it was the uncle that I had the vivid dream about several years ago. I was back in our house in Connecticut, upstairs in the bathroom, which did not exist when we lived there. We talked about building a bathroom upstairs. We never did. But in this dream, I'm in that bathroom. I come out into the hallway, and there is my uncle right there, 2 feet away from me, vivid detail, and just looking traumatized, like that. And it shook me so bad, I woke up. I'm like, okay, what the heck was that? Um, so I'd had that experience. And then I went to Lilydale last August, 2023, and asked about, went to two mediums during the psychic fair, and they both said, your uncle's here. And like, okay, so said, he kind of looks like you, family, da 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 da. Said, well, I only have two uncles, and I know one has already visited me through the light, now twice. This other uncle, other than that vivid dream, I said, well, I had that vivid dream. Is like, is he fine? Is he crossed? Oh yeah, he's fine. He's happy for you. He's excited for you. He's doing great. He's crossed over. I'm like, okay. So the second medium at Lilydale that night actually gave me a name, and it was the name, his name. And I'm like, okay, so this is real. As he crossed over, oh yes, he's fine. He's excited for you. And I'm like, all right, so what's something wasn't adding up. I thought he hadn't crossed because of that vivid dream, but apparently he has crossed. So I know the concept of fractured spirits. Maybe this has to do with that. So anyway, back to um, the shaman out here west of me. I said, okay, I'm going to use his name. I want to talk to him. So I name his full name, and he goes, oh, well, he liked to tinker, didn't he? He had like bench, and he has tools, and I see this, and he liked to read. He has a library and all this. I'm like, sure. It's like I didn't spend a lot of time with him, but he says, well, he was a very docile man, wasn't he? He was not expressive, but kept everything to himself. I said, yeah, pretty much. He was very quiet. I would say henpecked. Um, and he says, well, I'm getting that he had a dark side and he had some latent abilities. Would he go upstairs into the attic to get away from your aunt? What's your aunt's name? So I gave him full name of my aunt. He goes, oh, she was controlling, wasn't she? Yes, to put it mildly. And he read that whole family situation like that. And this is what he told me. He says, I see a 10-year-old boy up in that attic, huddled up, curled up, crying inconsolably, just years and years and years of trauma and abuse, had a very rough childhood, was always picked on. And then he marries your aunt, and she showed her love by controlling everyone, which was true, which is why my cousins wanted out. Um, and so he said basically the same thing that the rescue medium said. But he expanded on it. He says, well, do you have a notepad? I said, I'm taking notes. Yes, let me have your notepad. So he draws what he sees. And I'm going to put the picture here. He says, well, there's the boy, and then she's got her hands around him, trying to control him. And then apparently, if your uncle had latent abilities, he opened up some sort of portal, and something dark came through, and it's encapsulating that whole situation. So he draws this boy with my aunt, and then this sphere around it of something dark. He said it's not really a demon per se. Mediums who like to work only in the light, perceive darker energy as something evil, and they don't want to touch it. Whereas the rescue medium told me, she goes, um, rescue mediums, we just turn around, we run straight into it because we're here to fix that situation. She goes, that's why you're here. Um, Side note, she said, do you see 11 a lot? I said, yes, I do. Every A lot of times I look at the clock or my watch or the computer, and it's it's 5:11, it's 4:11, it's yeah, 1:11, it's 9:11. She goes, do you see 9:11 a lot? I said, actually, yes, I do. And she said, that's the sign of a rescue medium. They see 911 more than any other number combination. I'm like, okay, so apparently my, my abilities are very, very strong. Reason being, I'm here as a rescue medium. So now I've got to figure all that out. But anyway, she said, and he also said, your soul's purpose is to get rid of this situation. You need to heal this situation. So he drew that picture, and he actually said, he has he has an ability when he goes into space. He studied some ancient religion. He mentored with a monk, and it's pre-Judaism, and I can't remember. It wasn't Astro Zora. I can't remember the name of the religion. If you know, please put it in the comments. But he said, I go into a space and I meditate, I picture the light. And for whatever reason, he said, from the first time I tried this, it's like this explosion, just this burst of white light, and it clears out the whole space. He goes, I can do that for you if you want. You just need to fly me out there, set me up, pay expenses, travel, whatever. But rescue work you don't charge for because it's part of your soul's purpose. You're not here to make money off rescuing souls. So the actual service is not charged for, but getting them there and back, that's fine, fine by me. So he said, I can do that for you. So he drew it out, and so that was the current story. But he says, like, yeah, because I said I felt it was almost like a poltergeist. I actually asked my cousin once. I said, has it lessened since they both passed on? He says it kind of has. So I said, well, it sounds like he formed a poltergeist in that attic, and that's what's there. And I don't know what it's feeding off of. I kind of think I know, because neither one of my cousins has forgiven their parents to the point they will not go to the cemetery. I go to the cemetery from Chicago in Connecticut every December to decorate the graves because, because one, my father did it, so I feel I should do it. But my cousins will not step foot into that cemetery. Since the burials, they have not been back in those cemeteries. So I don't think they're ready to forgive. Though I've told them several times, you need to forgive so you can move on and they can move on. Anyway, it's an extremely complicated story, as you can hear. So anyway, so I have that information. I have her information. I recently just talked to her again. Well, let me back up. When I talked to the uh, shaman at Lilydale, she did not say much about that situation. She starts talking about these women that are around me, and it's like, okay, that's not why I'm calling you. I want to know about this. And I told her about the ghost tour and how we have the spirit of the Ben who died of the drug overdose. She went on to have a conversation with Ben for about 30 minutes. And basically, Ben's comment was, you forced me out of the daycare. You stuck me in the bathroom. Now I'm stuck in the bathroom. I don't know where else to go. Like, uh, so I need to bring in another medium to help him across. But anyway, because I don't know how to do it yet. Anyway, so that third person didn't help as much. But I called the rescue medium back recently and relayed what the shaman told me, and she basically agreed. And she said, well, first thing there needs to be, you need to seal that portal. You are more than capable of doing this. I feel it's your soul's purpose to do this, reiterating what everyone else has told me. And I said, well, I don't know what I'm doing. She goes, you will know. It may not be soon. It may be, a year or two. It may be later on than that, but your soul's purpose is to heal that generational trauma and move that situation over. So that's where I am right now, just trying to figure out how I can do this, when I can do this. I still need to get back to my cousin to see what his emotional state is currently, if he's ready to help or not help. If he's not ready to forgive, I don't know what I can do. in the meantime. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. I'm tempted to bring in the shaman and let him do his thing, but I don't know. I'm taking it. I'm still learning, still collecting data. So anyway, so she gave me the steps. Close the portal, which I have to figure out how to do, and then there needs to be forgiveness shown, placed into the space, a loving space. You have to create a loving space, forgive, ask for forgiveness, and forgive that past trauma, and then work down. It's like peeling an onion. Work down to the center until finally ready to move on. But it's a fractured piece of the souls. It's not the full souls. My aunt and uncle are not trapped up in that bubble. It's just the fractured pieces of their traumatic childhood are what are in that bubble up there. So she said it's going to take more than one visit. It's going to take multiple visits, but you can do it. That's why you're here. So that's where I am right now. I need to continue learning. So one of the challenges I've had that I've talked about in other videos is that I just don't get information back when I ask questions. So if I go into, a space that has a spirit and I have an encounter or they do something to me, like throw a screw at me or whatever, okay, who is this? What do you want? Why are you here? Do you need my help? I never seem to get any kind of answer. And I'm expecting words in my head, which I do get occasionally in other situations, but not these. And she said, well, it's not just, clear audience. You have clear sentience, you have clairvoyance, you may get information other ways. And basically, bottom line is I need to meditate more, I need to focus more, I need to concentrate more. So I'm looking for more learning. I would love to find a mentor to help me through this because as an engineer, I'm a very step by step process. What's step one? What's step two? And I know it doesn't work like that. But half the time my mother comes through, it's like patience, patience, patience. So I'm working through all that. I know internally that I have the capability. A day after I spoke to the rescue medium last week, go into the bathroom upstairs in my loft here. And for whatever reason, that seems to be a portal. I sometimes get messages while I'm in the bathroom. And that next day I was complaining to friends that, I don't get anything. I can't hear, I can't see anything. I can't feel, I don't get a response. I don't know what I'm doing. Just self-lamenting on myself, and went to the bathroom, and then I felt the light come down in the bathroom, and I felt it was my uncle who fractured soul is in the attic, and I got the reassurance on a very visceral level, clairsentience, no words, no visions, clairsentient. Yes, you can do this. You're here to do this. Yes, you can do this. And I felt the love come down through my body. So I know I can do it. But as a native New Englander, old Yankee, I still love to complain about it. Anyway, so if you have any thoughts or ideas, let me know in the comments. But that's what's going on. That's what's been going on for a year and a half, 2 years now. And that's what my life's purpose, my soul's purpose is to be fulfilled. So it's a journey, it's a work in process. I will let you know as things develop. But anyway, I just felt I should tell that story now and at least give it some oxygen and show it some light, bring it to the surface. So thanks for listening, and yeah, your comments are welcome.